My name is Rachel, and I had always been drawn to mysterious and spooky tales. So when Mrs. Thompson, a wealthy widow from our town of Hollowbrook, asked me to babysit her 2 children, Lily and William, in their grand manner, I couldn't resist the opportunity to explore the mansion's secrets. Little did I know that my fascination with the unknown would lead me into a nightmarish world of terror. As I approached Hollowbrook Manor on a foggy October evening, the mansion's imposing silhouette sent shivers down my spine. The ancient structure loomed over me, its windows dark and secretive, as if hiding unfathomable horrors within. Mrs. Thompson greeted me warmly, her eyes reflecting a sadness that seemed to linger in the air. "Thank you for coming, Rachel. I need to attend to some business, but Lily and William are already waiting for you in the nursery upstairs," Mrs. Thompson said with a forced smile, handing me a set of keys. "You'll find everything you need in the nursery. Please make sure they are in bed by 9 p.m. "Of course, Mrs. Thompson. Don't worry about a thing," I replied, though a tiny part of me wondered why she looked so apprehensive. As Mrs. Thompson's car disappeared down the winding driveway, I took a deep breath and headed upstairs to the nursery. The wooden floors creaked beneath my feet, and a chilling draft seemed to follow me through the corridors. Lily and William were already waiting in the nursery, their wide eyes filled with excitement and curiosity. "Rachel, are you going to tell us a scary story tonight?" Lily asked, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. I chuckled. "Only if you promise not to get too scared." As I settled into the rocking chair, I noticed a painting on the nursery wall. An old portrait of the Thompson family. Mrs. Thompson, her late husband, and 2 children who appeared eerily similar to Lily and William, but from another time. "Who are the children in the painting?" I asked, curious. Lily exchanged a knowing glance with her brother. "They're our ancestors. They used to live here a long time ago." Before I could inquire further, William tugged at my sleeve. "Tell us a spooky story, Rachel. The scarier the better," I obliged, weaving a tale of a ghostly presence haunting Hollowbrook Manor. As I reached the climax, the room seemed to grow colder, and I could almost sense an unexplained presence watching us. Brushing it off as my imagination, I bid the children goodnight and left the nursery. As the evening wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The hallways seemed to elongate, and the shadows danced eerily on the walls. I tried to immerse myself in a book, but the words blurred before my eyes as my nerves got the better of me. Suddenly, a faint whisper echoed from a nearby room. I strained to listen, but couldn't discern the source. The whispering grew louder, and an inexplicable force drew me towards the grand library on the first floor. The library's doors creaked open as if beckoning me inside. I hesitated, my heart pounding, but an irresistible curiosity pushed me forward. As I stepped inside, the door closed behind me, enveloping me in darkness. I fumbled for the light switch, but before I could find it, a soft glow illuminated the room, revealing the silhouette of a woman by the window. Her figure was ethereal, almost transparent, and I gasped as she turned to face me. It was Mrs. Thompson, but her eyes were empty and hollow, devoid of life. "Mrs. Thompson, is that you?" I stammered, my voice trembling. The apparition didn't reply, but instead pointed towards a dusty old journal on the desk. I picked it up, and as I read the faded entries, a dark tale unfolded before me. It told of a forbidden romance between Mrs. Thompson's ancestors, Emily and Alexander, who had lived in Hollowbrook Manor centuries ago. Their love had been disapproved of by the family, and in a fit of rage, Emily's father had locked her away in the very library I stood in. It was there that Emily had wasted away, consumed by heartbreak and despair. As I reached the final entry, the library's atmosphere shifted, and a chilling gust of wind blew through the room. I turned to see Emily's ghostly figure, her eyes filled with anguish and longing. "Free me from this eternal torment," she whispered, her voice hauntingly sad. My heart raced as I realized that Emily's spirit was trapped, unable to find peace. Determined to help her, I looked for a solution within the journal. There, I found a ritual that could release her soul and put her to rest. With trembling hands, I followed the instructions, hoping against hope that I could break the curse that bound Emily to Hollowbrook Manor. As I completed the ritual, the mansion trembled, and an otherworldly wail echoed through the halls. My name is Sarah, and I was just an ordinary college student looking to make some extra cash. Babysitting seemed like the perfect gig, so when Mrs. Johnson, a neighbor in our small town of Blackwood, asked if I could look after her 2 children, Emma and Jacob, for the weekend, I eagerly agreed. Little did I know that this babysitting job would become a terrifying nightmare I'd never forget. Friday evening arrived, and I made my way to the Johnsons' secluded farmhouse at the outskirts of town. As I approached the weather-worn house, an ominous feeling washed over me. The sun had set, and the full moon illuminated the surrounding woods, casting eerie shadows on the property. "Hello, Sarah. Thank you for coming on such short notice." Mrs. Johnson greeted me with a warm smile, handing me a list of instructions. "The kids are upstairs. They've already had dinner, so you just need to put them to bed." "Sure, no problem," I replied, doing my best to sound confident. Once Mrs. Johnson left, I went upstairs to check on the kids. Emma, the older one, was already asleep in her bed. However, Jacob, the youngest, was wide awake, sitting on the edge of his bed, clutching his stuffed bear tightly. "I can't sleep, Sarah. The shadows keep whispering to me," Jacob said, his voice trembling with fear. "It's just your imagination, sweetie. There's nothing to be afraid of," I reassured him, tucking him back under the covers. "I'll stay here until you fall asleep." As I sat next to Jacob, I couldn't help but feel a growing unease. The room felt colder, and strange rustling sounds echoed from outside the window. I dismissed it as the wind and tried to focus on comforting Jacob. Soon he drifted off to sleep, and I decided to head downstairs to relax on the couch. The living room was dimly lit, and the creaking floorboards added to the eerie atmosphere. I turned on the TV, hoping to distract myself from the unsettling feeling that lingered in the house. However, the static on the screen seemed to form strange shapes, almost like distorted faces peering back at me. Shaking off my unease, I decided to call my friend Lily to keep me company. As I dialed her number, I heard a faint whisper behind me, like someone calling my name. I turned around, but the room appeared empty. "Hello? Lily? Can you stay on the line with me for a while? This place gives me the creeps," I said, my voice trembling. "Sure, Sarah. I'm here for you," Lily replied, her voice comforting. We chatted for a while, and as time passed, the strange occurrences became more frequent. Doors creaked open on their own, and I heard footsteps on the stairs when no one was there. I tried to dismiss it as my imagination, but Lily's voice over the phone mirrored my unease. "That place sounds seriously spooky, Sarah. Are you sure you want to stay there?" Lily asked, concern evident in her voice. "I can't leave the kids alone. Besides, it's probably just an old house making weird noises," I replied, trying to convince myself as much as Lily. As midnight approached, the activity in the house intensified. The whispers grew louder, and shadows seemed to dance in the corners of my vision. I clutched the phone tightly, desperate for some semblance of normalcy. Suddenly, the lights flickered and then went out completely. Panic surged through me as darkness enveloped the house. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, illuminating the eerie surroundings. Just then, I heard a child's laughter echoing from upstairs. Fear gripped my heart as I cautiously ascended the stairs. The laughter led me to Emma's room, where I found her sitting on her bed, her eyes glazed and vacant. "Emma, are you okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She turned her head slowly toward me, and her lips moved as if trying to say something. But before she could speak, a chilling gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing my flashlight. In the darkness, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder, sending shivers down my spine. "Who's there?" I cried out, my heart pounding in my chest. As I fumbled for my phone, the hand tightened its grip, and a sinister voice whispered in my ear, "You shouldn't have come here." Terror consumed me as I broke free and ran downstairs, my phone now providing the only source of light. I could hear footsteps pursuing me, and the whispers became a cacophony of malevolent voices. With trembling hands, I managed to unlock the front door and rushed outside, gasping for breath. The darkness seemed to stretch endlessly around me, and the house loomed like a malevolent entity in the moonlight. In the distance, I saw the flickering lights of Lily's car. I ran towards it, praying for safety. As I reached the car, I looked back at the Johnsons' house, and in the window, I saw a shadowy figure watching me. Lily drove us away from that nightmarish place, and we vowed never to speak of what happened at the Johnsons' farmhouse again.